Welcome to Week in Horror.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
The podcast that deep dives all the films you love.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The week they dropped in horror history.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
With your horror hosts, JL.
When a shirtless Sam Elliott with no mustache takes out an alligator with an oar, that's the kind of movie I'm looking for.
Eugene.
And we're just casually just like, yeah, so that's probably the best way to go, light someone on fire with gasoline.
Alex.
It would not be an original lineup if I didn't have fucking technical difficulty.
Johnny O.
Now, it's not an Amityville, or wherever it's Amityville.
And Aaron.
They got manure to work with and nothing grew from it.
News, trailers, trivia, special guests, and more.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Live show every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central at youtube.com/weekinhorror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
And wherever you listen to podcasts.
One by one, we will take you.
Week in Horror. Stay scared. You're muted.
Works with the opening lines there. Yeah. Anyways, welcome, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of Why the Fuck Is That Guy in a Garage Again? Or no. This is Wednesday. Episode of Week in Horror, the only podcast that wants to be your friend to the end. And if you, dear horror fanatic, are listening to us at the top of the week, remember, we do this live every Wednesday right here on YouTube. Come hang out with us and see all the stuff our editor doesn't want you to see. She cuts out a lot.
A lot.
This week, we're covering select horror films released April 2nd through April 8th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Alex, and with me tonight is J.O.
Good to see you, bud. I see everybody in the live chat's excited that you're back.
Oh, hey, guys. I hadn't even pulled up the chat yet. What's up, everybody? It's been a hell of a month, a couple months almost.
Yeah, the trying to move during an ice storm, always a pain in the ass.
Great.
So.
It was great. I've never hired movers once in my whole entire life. Like, I've always done it by hand. I've moved probably 9 times in the last 11 years. And movers were pretty much forced upon us this time. They were gifted to us from our in-laws, which was awesome. So thanks to them for that. But the movers got there on Sunday. They got all the heavy, big stuff, all the furniture. They got it all into the house. And then Monday morning, we're getting ready to go grab all the rest of the stuff from the house. And it starts to rain, and it's below freezing. And we're like, oh, no. And then slowly over the next 12 hours, just ice accumulated into, we got probably about, I want to say like a half an inch of ice on the ground. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's wet and it like freezes overnight and then like rains during the day and freezes overnight, it gets real slick and it's dangerous, and they're not equipped for it here in Texas. I'm from the north. I know how to drive in it. We even made a few trips back and forth, but it was just there's too many other people out there trying to be cool and slamming into shit. So we just, we took our time. So it took about 3 weeks longer than it should have. And then, getting everything in and unpacked and getting everything set up was just another couple of weeks. And we're moving our office at work at the same time. So it's been busy, but it was time to come back and hang out with all you crazy fucks.
Yes, I was ecstatic when because we do a roll call. We see who's available each week because we have various projects going on and real life as well. That's why we have a rotating cast. And of course, when Alex was like, I'm in this week, I was like, so either he finally got everything done, or the man needs a break from all the shit he has to do. So, but either way,
so the latter.
Either way, it's amazing to have you back. It's been a minute. I know everybody in the live chat missed you. Speaking of the live chat, let's see who we've got here tonight. So I'll try and run through this quick because we do have some movies. And there's some comments today that I'm going to be firing up the Turd Polisher 9000 tonight. And I don't think I'll have to because I can't. Because at least one of the movies we're going to talk about there wouldn't be anything left. Like if I put it in there, it would be like, and then nothing would come out the other side. So
come out as like a sheet of gold flake.
So here we go. Let's see what we got. We got Nemo813 was first to the chat, says, I'm still waiting for the backstory on why Ozzy Osbourne is on the horror hospital poster. And it's funny because it looks like he is. It looks like Ozzy is on the horror hospital poster. It's not him, but the protagonist, like the hero of that movie, is a musician and is a rocker. And it's, of course, it's 1975 when that movie came out. So shot around 74. And so, yeah, he's got that 70s rocker look. And he may just be, he's also English. So that may be part of, I don't know. But when it comes down to it, that's the guy that they got. I personally think in the movie he looked a little bit more like Mick Jagger, but that's just me. I thought he kind of had a Mick Jagger look about him. But what are you going to do?
It's that British rock 1975 era look. Everybody
Right.
looked like that.
Exactly. So good to see you, Nemo813. Thanks for being here. Travis Brown is here as well. Good to see you. Travis says, I got here first. Actually, bud, you got here second. But yes, he says a lot of love for Job because we did the bloodbath debate recently, and we did Job versus Shocker versus Horace Pinker from Wes Craven Shocker. And if you want to check out who won on that, then you need access to our bloodbath debates. And if you want early access to those, check out our Patreon. The link is down in the description. So good to see you, Travis. Thanks for being here. Reported no last name as well. Good to see you. Says, how bad are the movies tonight? Do we have to rename the podcast Week in Horror? I see what you did.
Oh, shit. That was clever. All right.
And you're very clever. Gabba Gabba to your road. It says, Travis Brown says we should name it Week of Jail Turd Polishing. I don't do it that often. Some of these movies have redeeming qualities, man.
Some of them do. No, you find the good in some shit, but you do sometimes just polish the shit out of some of these turds.
I'll admit, I agree.
And hey, that's just the passion, the filmmaker passion in you. That's all it is.
Oh, thank you. Sarcasm is here as well. Good to see Sarcasm says weekly horror. I see. Yeah, this is an ongoing thing. I see now. Casey Cooper is here. Casey Cooper says, I'm feeling a bit ramped up. I'm getting great feedback from my beta readers, and I should start sending out query letters. Oh, very cool. Excellent. Excellently done, Casey. And good to see you, bud. Thanks for being here. Brian Powell is here as well. Says, good evening, everyone. Good to see you, Brian Powell. And I see, where'd he go? I saw him, he popped in. Yes, I know, Brian, you were waiting. Yeah, we were getting everything fired up, ready to go. Wrote it says, jail peeking through a splinter door holding a poop emoji saying, here's shiny. I know, right? I just can't help myself. I really can't. West Side Girl reacts as punctuality people. We were getting fired up. Apologies. It was a couple of minutes. I actually held it to 4 minutes because somebody said that the pool was 4 minutes that we would start. And then I see Sarcasm.
That's why he kicked it off, yeah.
Right. Sarcasm was like, I'm placing my bid on 7.
Like, we're going. Let's go. Come on. Shit.
But good to see you, West Side Girl reacts. Thanks so much for being here. Angel Rivera is here as well. Good to see you, Angel. Says, I can give you a 341 minute, but I refuse to do push-ups like a grunt. Elizabeth Sylvester's here. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight, as well as the plot holes keeping the chat, entertained over there. Says, it's not an Amityville or whatever the fuck. It's Schmamityville. This is true. And I am putting together a new trailer for the intro. I have a good idea for it. I have a good idea for an intro that it's kind of complex, but I'm doing it myself, so I'm looking forward to putting that out. Joshua Lee, good to see you, bud. Says, hey, all your horror otakus. Good to see you, bud. Thanks so much for being here. As well as Raven Darkstar. Good to see you, Raven. Denova28 here. Says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, Denova. And I see... Where did he go? Javier Har is here. Says, hello, or Jello. Good to see you, Javier. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. UKPI's in the house. Says, hello, people. Hope you're well. We are doing fantastic. Looking forward to an excellent show tonight, at least an entertaining show tonight. But we have some interesting stuff. We have some very interesting stuff to talk about. Ronella Sam says, jail, new script, Death Ice. I think I think Asylum got to that at one point. I think Cindy Johnson's here. Good to see you, Cindy. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. Let me see. Jay Vers, there he is. Says, hey, you're not alone today. I am not alone today. I do have Alex with me, and it's amazing because he hasn't been here. Hasn't been here in a minute, but we're happy to have it. Says jail. Plottle says jail doesn't polish turds often, just every Wednesday, at least once, most of the time, 3 times, but not always. Appreciate that, Plottle. Really, really do. Rave Doctor says, you do a lot of polishing. Okay, fine. I do a lot of polishing. I do. I see the good. I see the good in the swamp. I do. I see.
But you have to because Johnny shits on him so hard.
Yes.
You got to take that shit and at least polish it into something we can talk about.
I have to balance the cosmos. The cosmos must be balanced. There must be balance brought to the universe. And if he's going to sit there and shit on everything that we bring up, then I've got to do my best. I've got to. I really do. Charlie Welch is here. Good to see you, Charlie. Thanks so much for hanging out, man. The only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, Welchie. And I think I caught up with everybody. Excellent. Yes. If I missed somebody, I apologize. I don't think I did. Cindy Johnson, good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. I think I got everybody. But if I missed you, I apologize. But welcome to the Week in Horror podcast. Why? I should never have given him admins. Why did I do that?
It gets
Can
worse
you not?
the longer you look at it.
Can you not?
Just the longer you look at it, it gets worse.
Anyway, so God.
Speaking of Johnny,
So he pops in. Christo, good to see you, Christo. Thanks so much for being here. You're here. Are you joining the show tonight?
No, I just had to show everybody that while it's working.
They've already seen it.
They have not seen this one.
Yes, they did. You showed it the last time you were on.
No, that was just for the bloodbath.
Oh, this was for the bloodbath. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Gets so much worse the longer you look at it.
You gotta love the professionalism around here. Just pop it into stream whenever he wants, you know. We had a flow.
Yes, it was a turd flow. See ya.
Fuck it up.
Such a
Did you say turd flow? That's gonna be. I'm gonna have to add that to my fucking turd flow.
Oh man. So, yeah, and West Side Girl Reacts is going to be angry, Johnny. Yeah, he always is. He just shits on everything that we bring. There's like, I think of the almost 800 films we've talked about on this show, I think Johnny has not shit on like 4.
2?
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say 4 because it's the same. It's just over and over and over again. So I'm going to say 4. I'm going to say he hasn't shit on 4.
Okay. You're being a little nice. It's fun.
Yeah.
I get it. He makes good points about it. You make good points against it. That's why this works. It's a good dynamic. We got lucky in a little setup here. Cindy Sue, good to see you, Cindy Sue. Thanks so much for being here. All right, let's see. So a couple of things that brought up, and I want to get I not only want to ask you about it, but I also want to find out what the live chat thinks about this as well. Plato says, I don't shit on these movies like you don't polish all the turds. Well, I do polish a bunch of turds. You shit on a bunch of movies. So anyway, so 2 things that popped up in my feed that I thought were interesting and I thought our live chat might be interested in if they hadn't heard about it yet. But first and foremost is apparently the return of Blockbuster. Yeah, okay. So they dropped this cryptic-ass message on their social media that was like, we are working on rewinding your movie. And it was like, wait, hold on. Don't tease me. Because we've got stuff like 90s fashion is coming back. We're at Target. I'm like, I'm literally, this my childhood. These are shit that my mom wore. And now we're like at the age we're wearing it. Everything's coming back from the 90s now. And then Blockbuster, I'm like, no. Just pinch me. Because if you're fucking with me. And if I get to go back into a Blockbuster and browse up and down the movie aisle for 35 minutes because you can't decide.
Fuck yeah.
Or even get a fucking video. Oh my God, I'll die. That's fine. I'm done. Full circle, nostalgic happiness, done. Let's go.
Think about it, because we live in a time when we have a generation of kids out there who have never been in a Blockbuster or a Hollywood video store. Movie trading company is still around, but it's not the same.
No,
there's something different there. So something like going into going into a Blockbuster and then up and down, and then there over there's the horror section, and over here is the romance section, the comedy section over here, and as a kid, that's where I got you because all you see is the covers, and maybe you grab it, you look what's on the back, but judging everything by its official artwork, so some of the scary shit that we saw. I remember Evil Dead left a very strong. Evil Dead 2 left a very strong impression on me when I saw that the skull with the eyes in it and everything. So I remember that. Yes, Cindy Sue brings up Friday night with the kids, go into Blockbuster to pick up a couple of pick up a couple of VHS, bring them home, watch them, make sure you rewind them, and then bring them back.
God, I just remember the basements. The concrete floor basements with the little fucking CRT TVs that had the VCR built into it, and that was the shit. You pop that in, you get, the fucking oh my god, the sound of the DVD cases or the boxes hitting the shelf. It's I wish I could bring my kids there, and it looks like I might get the chance.
Right. So that is pretty amazing. So I kind of want to throw that out there. So it's this possibility that Blockbuster may be returning, that all of a sudden the resurgence, I guess we needed something nostalgic. Things are kind of dark out there, and we probably need need some relief. And then of course Netflix released its Blockbuster series, its comedy series, which only lasted a season before they canceled it. I watched it, and we watched it over here. It was okay. I thought it was I didn't think it was What the hell was that?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
I thought that it wasn't well cast is the problem.
I agree.
And so I thought it could have done with a better cast, but nonetheless, it was entertaining. But I think there's like this need for nostalgia, that we need something. And so the popularity that that Blockbuster had in the press, with like the last ones closing and the last Blockbuster left, where's it going to go? We're losing it. We're losing an era. And then all of a sudden, here it comes back. It's kind of creeping back just by sheer will, that we kind of want the joy of that again, which is pretty impressive. So let us know. Let us know in the live chat. Let us know in the comments below. Do you think Blockbuster deserves, a reboot? Do you believe that Blockbuster should return? Is this a good thing, or is this just a failed marketing thing trying to capitalize on a bygone era that could never truly be recaptured? Let us know what y'all think. I'd love to hear y'all's opinions on it. Send them to weekinhorror@gmail.com or leave them down in the comments below. Your thoughts, Blockbuster coming back or leave it alone?
We're in for a rough couple of years when things have gone to shit, and it's so bad that they're like, nah, fuck that. We're going back to the 90s. It was okay in the 90s. This is terrible. Go back.
Fuck it. Let's just bypass it. Go straight back to the 80s. Just go back to the 80s when it was a better time.
Just a hard reset.
Just a hard reset. N.A., good to see you, bud. Thanks so much for hanging out. Says hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Apparently, Alex is getting raided. We're not sure what's going on, but...
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I just knocked over a folding table that was under my workstation.
Okay, gotcha.
It's all good. It's not a man in the basement.
Seems like there's a lot of love for there's a lot of love for it for Blockbuster. Raven Darkstar brings up Family Video. Family Video shut down in 2021, not because of lockdown, but because of man, that's bad. That's bad. That's not good. So Family Video died, but Hollywood Video also jumped in there and tried to do it, but they went really, really hard into music as well. Yeah. So that kind of, because they were trying to compete with Movie Trading Company. Movie Trading Company was the one that handled everything, handled music, handled movies, handled toys, games. I know some that carry comics, some that carry action figures. So they're kind of like, I always felt that Movie Trading Company was trying to compete with GameStop. GameStop and EB Games, that's what they were going for. And then, but they also, so that's where I kind of felt that went. And then GameStop and EB Games were kind of specialized, but Blockbuster always had its kind of like, they secured that position. Hollywood Video tried to come in there and kind of challenge them a little bit, but it would always be Blockbuster. That blue friggin' ticket, Blockbuster Video,
I still have my fucking membership card. It's in my drawer.
Sweet. I probably still have mine sitting around here somewhere too.
I keep it because it's like maybe someday. But it is. I mean, like you look at something like that. Think about it. It's Friday night. You got your friends. You're all in there. The one parent that decided they were going to take on the kids for whatever fucking reason they were out of their mind for, and have everybody sleep over. No matter what was going on in your life, no matter how shitty things were, going to Blockbuster, getting a movie with your friends, and staying up late. Watching a movie that you probably shouldn't, but since everybody wouldn't shut up about it, the Blockbuster, the parent let him get it. It's just, there's just something happy about that place. It was always a happy place.
I don't have bad memories. I don't have bad memories of Blockbuster.
No,
I don't. I don't have bad memories at all.
No.
Yeah, gotta love it. Some of my favorites was when they held the world video game championships for the Super NES, and I actually went participate in that, and they played Donkey Kong Country. Oh fuck yeah, dude! It was amazing. So I love those days. It was just absolutely amazing. But yeah, let us know down in the comments below what you think. And here's another one that kind of blew my mind before we get started on tonight's selections. So there's a rumor that Chris Carter And anybody who doesn't know that name, he was the creator of the X-Files, creator of Millennium, creator of big sci-fi creator. And he dropped a hint in an interview he recently did that Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther, may be trying to reboot X-Files.
Which is just wild. That's ballsy.
I know, right? And he wants to make it. He really wants to make it a diverse cast, a really diverse cast, which is something that arguably the X-Files really didn't do. You had one person of color in X-Files, which was prominent person of color, which was Mr. X. After Deep Throat died, so then Mr. X showed up and he was a complete and total badass. And then you had, but it always showcased. It always had a good variety, a very strong variety of actors in the kind of lead, the actors who drove the narrative. So you had David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, and of course, Skinner as well, and other members around them. But then, of course, whatever the subject was, whatever they were investigating, there was always a major lead actor there. And I remember watching Tony Todd. I mean, a number of fantastic performers. Every single major actor in Breaking Bad was on X-Files at one time.
Yep.
If you watch a show, like any major show out there, it would be that now. But the thing is, and DeNova brings it up, I can't watch X-Files without Gillian and David. David has stated that he's willing to come back to play Mulder, but he will not do it unless Gillian comes back to play Scully. And of course, Gillian has said that she's taken the character as far as it can go, that there really is not much else that could be said about Scully. And Danny Trejo is in an episode. Jack Black has been in an episode. Giovanni Ribisi has been in an episode. So many episodes. I mean, X-Files was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely, we love it. The actor who I can't remember his name's off the top of my head. What was it? The actor who played Herschel on Walking Dead. He was in an episode of X-Files, which was made. It was and then Nick Chinlund, a number of there's so many, too many to count. So many 12 seasons or 11 seasons of X-Files, too many to count. But yeah, and I don't know, because we're looking at a more diverse cast. What Ryan Coogler wants, he wants to explore the same kind of style, but taken into other areas and do something a little bit different than what Chris did, but still in the same kind of universe. So I'm very curious. Yes, even Tobin Bell, Jigsaw was in an episode of the X-Files. He absolutely was. He was the dude, the guy who was like the chain smoker, smoking 4 packs a day.
Gross.
Yes. So yeah, I'm blown away by that. I'm kind of I'm curious if that's going to happen. I don't know, but maybe.
You never know. It could. In like shit, I don't remember. I read the article. I can't remember who said it, but they're saying it's such an old idea. You don't know if you can bring anything new. It's those kinds of people you got to weed out before you do something like this, because they're not going to be into it. You got to find people that are going to jump in and be like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. And it might have a chance. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard because a lot of those kinds of shows really tried to. I mean, with the exception of like, what else was around? Like Twin Peaks. There wasn't anything really big that stuck around. You get these kinds of shows that get 3 or 4 seasons in, and you get all these dead seasons, and it just they don't make it. So to come back strong, come back with new ideas is going to be tough. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm in. I'll watch it. Shit.
It could be interesting. It seems that there's a lot of love for it in the side chats. Let's see. Genova said he can't watch without Gillian and David. Let me see here. Oh, Sam and Dean Winchester might be coming back too. I'd heard possible rumors, because now that I understand how the Winchesters is running, how they're doing that show, as it's an alternate reality to the one that Dean was originally from. So in part of the multiverse, now I get where they're going with that. I don't know. 15 years of the Winchesters kicking ass. I think 15 years was good. I thought the Winchesters is kind of a cash grab. Feels like a cash grab to me. But they can do whatever they want. I still watched it, and I get it. It was cool to see Bobby show up, Jim Beaver especially. And congratulations, Jim Beaver, who is cancer-free, who beat cancer. Oh, yeah. And I'm so excited to hear about that. He's able to show back up in the show, which is pretty awesome. So, Frodo Last Name says, Fringe was better. Fight me. Fringe was better. Fringe was an amazing show and ended exactly how it needed to. J.J. Abrams did not pull a Lost and drag it out way longer than it should. Fringe is by far, like, literally one of my top 3 shows. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is in my top 3. Fringe is in my top 3. Breaking Bad, But Fringe was magnificent. Oh man, I love that show. John Noble is legend, and Anna Torv and Joshua Jackson were just the chemistry was just amazing. So Olivia and Peter, one of the great loves in sci-fi television, up there with Scully and Mulder. So absolutely love it. Let me see here. Jillian, yep, you're right. West Side Girl reacts, says Jillian is still hot. She absolutely is. And thank you. That was Scott Wilson. Scott Wilson was in an episode of X-Files. He was the preacher who released Donnie faster in order to try and kill him, and then wound up discovering that Donnie was actually a demon. A proper Night Stalker would be pretty badass. Instead of casting Townsend, Stuart Townsend as Night Stalker, the cardboard boy. Actually get someone who could emote like fucking McGavin could, but no, because they tried to reboot Night Stalker and it was awful. It was just absolutely terrible. Oh man. Oh, Josh Lee said I personally liked Outer Limits, and we saw that Jordan Peele tried to reboot Twilight Zone. It really didn't hit as part of CBS's new thing. Maybe the Outer Limits would work, but I tell you what, if there was a series that I could reboot that I could bring back, and I actually have it written, I have a pilot written, and I hope I get to move it out there someday. I really do. And I really wouldn't mind if someone jumped on it before I did. I wouldn't. But there is one I would love to see rebooted. While the primary actors, one of them has passed away. Actually, two of them have passed away if you count Uncle Lewis, but Friday the 13th series. Okay. A return to Curious Goods would be an amazing series. I wrote a pilot for it. But if someone else with more power and more money than me were to jump on that and reboot that series, I'd love to be able to see that happen. I'd love to be the one to do it, but I think that series deserves a revisit and bring back John LeMay and bring back Roby to bring to their roles, just to kind of give closure to them, and then hand the torch off to another group that handles all the cursed artifacts in the old Curious Goods store. I think that would be amazing.
That'd be good. Shit, I'm interested to see that pilot.
Fuck yeah, and it works out because the amount of time that's gone by, John LeMay, because in the series he got young at the end of season 2, he was transformed back into a kid, which means he could come back in this one and be. And I've seen him; he's aged magnificently, so he could come back and be in the perfect position where he's technically younger than Roby, and so she could come back and you could give closure to those two characters, let them move on, and then someone else handles the story. I thought it would be fucking amazing. That's just my idea. It's just a thought. So. Rodent No Last Name says Night Stalker starring Thomas Jane. Mic drop. That would be kind of cool. That would be. Josh Lee says, didn't they do an X-Files reboot recently? They brought X-Files back for 2 more seasons, for season 10 and season 11. But it really didn't close anything up. And it ended on kind of a cliffhanger. And they didn't renew for a 12. And they were like short. They were little mini seasons. So what are you going to do?
It's fucking annoying.
Oh, he says they already did that reboot. It was called Warehouse 13 and sucked. How dare you?
Oh my God.
Blasphemy, sir.
Get out of here. Warehouse
Blasphemy.
Shit.
Sacrilege. Put that man on a pyre. That man said Warehouse 13 sucked.
That was amazing.
This show was awesome.
That was one that they didn't finish off. Wish they'd go back to.
I like how Warehouse 13 ended. It ended a little abruptly because Sci-Fi had to cancel it, but Warehouse 13 was amazing. It had some amazing episodes, some ones that were funny as hell, some that were real tear-jerkers. I love the chemistry of the cast. Saul Rubinek is one of my favorite actors. Loved him in Star Trek TNG. And then, of course, Eddie McClintock and Joanna Pacula, not to mention Alison Scagliotti is absolutely amazing. Cheesy but fun. It was fun. That's what it was meant to be. True sci-fi fantasy, yes. And of course, fucking Crowley from Supernatural was in there. Mark Shepard playing, Volda, one of the bad guys in the show. So, I fucking love Warehouse 13. I could go on about that forever. Not to mention, fucking have the Bionic Woman in it. Have the Bionic Woman in it, man. Come on. What are you doing?
Oh, man.
I fucking love that show. Warehouse 13 and Haven were both really great shows. We're both fantastic. Alphas was pretty good, but not as well thought out. And Eureka was also pretty fantastic. But now we're in the realm of sci-fi, and let's head back to our. Definitely let us know what you think in the comments below about the potential Ryan Coogler X-Files reboot with a more diverse cast and no David and Jillian. What do you think? Down in the comments below. And yeah, Mark Shepard was in an episode of X-Files. He was the Irish guy who could light things on fire. who's the pyrokinetic or the pyro. He was pyrokinetic who can light shit on fire spontaneously. Yeah. Ooh, and Farscape. Fuck yes, Vera. Vera Lucia Capos' Fringe and Farscape. Farscape was fucking amazing. And Firefly.
Was good.
All the good ones start with F.
Damn, now you got to make a movie called All the Good Ones Start with F and reference all those movies in there. That'd be great.
Hey, Facty, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Says hi, y'all. Good to see you. All right. Oh, we've had too much Stargate, Joshua Lee. Too much Stargate. There's so much Stargate. We don't need.
Gotta leave it.
Don't need to revisit that. But man, I could see Friday the 13th, the series, a reboot, just a reboot. Just call it Curious Goods. You call it Curious Goods was the name of the store, or you could call it something else to that degree. But I think that series deserves a revisit and let us get closure for the actors who were in the original series to close off for the three surviving actors from that. Let the first season give closure to them, and then let the season 2 run off and allow the new cast to take over. I think that would be amazing. So hell yes. All right.
Oh shit! Now that we veered off completely in the opposite direction where we're going tonight, let's take a step back and go back to 1975. Jay, why don't you kick us off?
Hell yes. Let's do it. So tonight, the first movie that we're going to talk about, and I'm not firing up the Turd Polisher 9000 for this bad boy, released April 3rd, 1975, and we have Horror Hospital, also known as Computer Killers, which I don't fucking get at all, but
no sense.
But it's English. So let's take a look at this trailer. But they're English, so let's take a look at it. Oh, dang it, there we go.
Take a walk into the future and see a movie 100 years ahead of itself.
Now, Frederick.
Test drive the car of the future and try out the Death Ship. Meet Judy and Jason.
What's your name?
Judy Peters. What's yours?
Jason Jones.
Two people destined to spend the weekend together as lovers.
Is this
Lovers
Ron
who will
Serling?
experience the taste of terror. Meet Dr. Sturm, a scientist who discovered how to control the human mind, whose patients have no choice but to obey his every command.
You're sick.
Alfred,
You're ill. You're insane.
A genius who wants to create an army of humanoids.
Well, my friends, there'll be 3 more companions for you very soon.
Dead bodies recycled into faceless humanoids that follow orders to kill.
Get it, Batman. There's too many Batman
Meet
references
the
in
computer
this.
killers.
Watch, Jason. These young people are completely under my control.
Human guinea pigs robbed of their will.
Olga?
People transformed into humanoids by an operation that removes part of the brain. An operation that transforms them into living humanoids.
What do you think he's doing to those kids?
I don't know. He seems to have them under his control. What have they done to her?
It's no use, Jason. You won't get very far.
The computer killers, a new breed of humans.
It's no use, Jason. You won't get very far.
Steel brains, human bodies, programmed to kill.
I'll operate tonight.
See it all when you meet the computer killers. But for your sake, don't press the wrong button. The computer killers.
Don't press the wrong button.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Why did you put a program feature in there to have them turn on you?
You gotta love fucking AIP. So that was Horror Hospital, otherwise known as Computer Killers, which interestingly enough, is considered a science fiction comedy horror film. But we'll get there. Anyway, directed by Anthony Balch and written by Anthony Balch and Alan Watson, starring Robin Asquith, Michael Goff, Vanessa Shaw, Ellen Pollack, Dennis Price, Kurt Christian, Kenneth Benda, and Colin Skeeping. So the film follows a two people, a musician and a girl that he meets along the way, who wind up at this mansion in the middle of the country in order for a kind of like, vacation. She's going to meet her boyfriend, and then he just needs a break from the musician lifestyle. And then they show up, and of course, Dr. Storm, is running the whole gig, and he is turning everybody that shows up at this place into mindless zombies that he can control into his army. And of course, everybody that shows up is a hippie, and he's the old, doctor who is turning them all into all these monsters. So, and of course, he does look a little, the guy looks a little bit like Mick Jagger. He absolutely does. But of course, it's funny because, how quickly, there's a commentary here. And essentially about the culture, the new culture that was coming up post World War II, because it's 1975. Then you had the counterculture of the 60s, and of course the American influence on England in post World War II Europe, and then of course the effect of expanding sexual identity and the hippie generation. So that moving into England, there was a big culture clash there, big time culture clash between the stiff upper lipped kind of like, passive aggressive mentality where we don't really talk about our feelings, we don't really deal with stuff, and the new culture that was coming, the new generation that was coming in. And that clash, while we saw it here in America, obviously there were culture clashes there, but in England it was particularly gross. And there was a lot of hatred there and a lot of passive-aggressive attacks. And, of course, this really got expressed in a number of films as well, which I think this one was a commentary on, which is what inspired it, because we have this doctor who is obviously of a much earlier generation who expresses all of these things, all of these kind of viewpoints that are really, really, really outdated. And then, of course, him taking his anger or his revenge or whatever out on all these young people that come along that are sexually free and they have their identities. I mean, how quickly Shaw cheats on her boyfriend with the musician guy that she meets. It's like they meet and 30 minutes later or 15 minutes later, they're in the sack with one another. So it's like, really? You were waiting for your boyfriend to show up. It's like, oh, it's all good. It's all good. Whatever.
It's fine.
And so it's interesting in that respect. The weird thing is that they consider this thing to be a comedy, and it certainly is not.
Muted myself. That was cool.
You did mute yourself, yes.
I was clicking back to the page. But yeah, no, like you're talking about, it's just there's a lot of cool concept. It's still early enough to where it's kind of a newer concept, the brain control, mind control, and they put the cool how they did it into it, and you got the controller, and but it's just they left so much hanging. I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring up wasn't she waiting for her fucking boyfriend, and then just runs off.
Then she just bangs this dude. He's sure.
Just completely walks off the thing, and then it was okay, they know something's going on, something's wrong, and they just never leave. They just kind of chill, whatever, it's all fine. I just want to bang.
I'll tell you what. Okay, so obviously I don't think the film is very comedic, but it was listed as a horror comedy. There's nothing really funny about this. Now, if anything that was an attempt to be funny, I thought was a little on. It was because there's dry British humor. We can say that Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy. We've talked about many British films that were technically horror comedies, but that comedy is always very, very dry. It's very different from American comedy and less of a reliance on dick and fart jokes and shit like that. But in this one, it was so dry that to me it really kind of comes off as kind of sad and creepy. Not to mention, and I have to point this out, that very similar to another film we talked about called Prey, which was a sci-fi horror film about an alien that comes to Earth looking for new sources of food because it's a carnivore. Its species needs new sources of meat, and so it runs around the movie eating everything. It looks human. It changes form to look human, and then it runs around eating different animals and shit to try and find a new source till it decides that humans are the best. And they'll make perfect food for the new species. But the whole film was a commentary on the way the English dealt with the homosexual community, because it's about a guy who's like this hyper masculine dude who comes into and upsets this couple of lesbians that has essentially been forced to the outskirts of society, and they live alone and they have their little idyllic little happiness. Then the uber masculine guy comes in and disrupts everything. All of a sudden, they're attracted to him and he spoils everything, and everybody winds up dying. It's absolutely fucking insane. So yeah, but this one had the same thing. It's less than not Prey. It was another 70s film. So this film is not aged well. We'll just say that. There is dialogue and terminology in this, and a couple of scenes that are decidedly wouldn't be popular today.
Yeah.
Is that a safe way of putting that?
Yeah. There's some stuff you just don't touch. But okay, so I wanted to bring up, because there was a line in the movie that stuck with me, was it was along the lines of like, we need to eat healthy food, and then he's like, there's nothing healthier than sex.
The writing was not fantastic.
That was great. Yeah. Okay.
I will give it for this. As far as production values go, the film was quite strong. It shot on location on a number of pretty impressive areas that have been used before in film and have been used since. Good talent in it. Michael Goff is a tremendous actor, was a legendary actor before he passed away. And of course, he was Alfred Pennyworth in the Tim Burton Batman films, and a couple of the Joel Schumacher ones. So, but he was a legendary actor, and you had some other good solid talent in that, but the writing in itself was absolutely atrocious. Not to mention, this film was definitely a product of its time. And you can see, I think historically, you can kind of see where the culture was at the time in the 70s, especially in England, when it came to horror films themselves. Because at the time, you had Britain, getting ready to kick off the video nasty era. This was 1975. You had the video nasties be, what they deemed video nasties showing up in less than 10 years, films going on the censorship list. And this one is kind of like written from that perspective, where we automatically, like, the opening sequence of the film is our hero getting into a fight with the lead singer of a band that took his gig. So, like, he had a gig and it was replaced. They booked another band in his place, so they took the gig. And the lead singer happened to be trans. And the things the hero says, and they get into a fight, and they they get in a full on bloody fist fight. And the things that the hero says would not fly today. And there is a lot of commentary there that is kind of gross. And then that's what leads him to the altercation, what leads him to take a break. He's like, I need a break from this sordid music industry. And then he's going to go out and go to the castle, or go to the manor estate where he's going to take his vacation. And then, of course, commentary from Michael Goff. A lot of the areas of the script are just decidedly very homophobic, very transphobic, very ageist, very ableist, all very disgusting. And, but some people may have a hard time kind of looking past that, because it's pretty intense. Not to mention, there's rape attempts in it, because the monster tries to rape the girl, and it's just really kind of, there's a lot of gross subject matter in there that I don't think a lot of people would deal or would really dig seeing nowadays. But it's a product of the time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard because you want to be correct about it, but it was. We hadn't got to a point as a society where we learned that stuff's probably just better off not being stated out loud and not promoted out in the public. But yeah, it's like I said, the concept is good. Cinematics were great. Like you said, there were some pretty impressive locations. You're kind of like, that's pretty cool. I wish
production value was pretty impressive. The use of lighting was good, especially to set up a lot of the creepy stuff, and not to mention the monster, the overall monster in it. It turns out that Dr. Storm is the actual monster. He's wearing like a fake mask that makes him look human, but he is the actual melty monster thing. And then he's the one, and he runs around and killing people and hiding in the shadows and shit. So he's the actual monster in the end, and in the end, he winds up getting decapitated with his own death ship with the bladed Rolls Royce, and then that's how they deal with it. And they blow up the whole laboratory and everything. But ultimately, I think what's important about ones like this is that if this, as offensive as this film has the potential to be today, it's an excellent example of where we were culturally back in the 70s, or especially England, where England was back in the 70s, and how far England has come in its acknowledgement of these things and how film has progressed. So, and if you go back even further, if you go back into the 40s, the 30s, then you have the, obviously there was a lot of war influence there. And so, and this was in reference to the counterculture movement, to how things had been changing ideologies, how those things were coming into clash pretty much all over the world, where a new kind of sexual awakening and a new kind of like identity embracing, we don't have to be what they tell us to be. We can be who we decide to be. Was this whole idea that there is no formula for success. We can define our own success. And the whole Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, cookie cutter 1950s America was on the downward slide. It's like, we don't have to be that way anymore. And that rigid structuralism, we don't have to abide by it.
No,
and I think that this movie is a direct product of that.
It definitely it hits the the person that you're following, the person that you think you trust could be could really be the monster. The person that you are being controlled by might actually be the monster in the whole situation. That part of it resonates today. You get a lot of people calling people sheep, and it's like, they're only following what they think is right, but sometimes it's just not, and then you end up getting screwed over completely by what you thought was the right thing. So yeah, there's underlying tones that could play into today's society, but the execution, the dialogue, the writing, it was all kind of off-kilter.
It was quirky. There's a weird quirkiness to the entire affair, whether it's Michael Goff's over-the-top presentation or
he's so dramatic.
His little dwarf assistant, or the Nurse Ratched, chick. Everything is so over the top, and so it's very theatrical. It's very much like we're on a stage and we're having to project loud so we can hit everybody in the theater. So which led to an air of creepiness, that when you shoot something well, even if the acting is kind of weird in that respect, but the way it was shot was extremely well done. Its use of light, its use of Dutch angles, the cinematography was very, very smart. You combine these elements, you can get a very quirky and very compelling kind of experience, which I kind of dug on that. And it helps to kind of take away from the put off of the grossness of the dialogue in itself. But I also found it to be really kind of smart to make the monster this kind of amorphous thing. Once the mask comes off, the mask of civility of the doctor, that he's this doctor, he knows all these things about science, and he's doing this evil. He's the mad science guy. But when the mask comes off, he's this amorphous clay face like monster, malleable, and looks like he's melting, and he could be anything. He'd take any form. He could wear any mask, and he could be that thing. And that's the idea there, which I think is what's important. Is that, and hey, Tina, good to see you, Tina Jones. Thank you so much for hanging out, bud. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I haven't seen you in a minute, but it's good to see you tonight. So in that respect, I liked that kind of artistic take on the monster itself, where the monster could be anybody. But the idea of these controlling aspects can take many, many forms. And that it could be, like in America, it could be, the fight, it could be fascism itself. It could be McCarthyism. It could be whatever was going on at the time, trying to, exert its control upon the populace, or it's controlling ideologies upon people. And it can take any form. It doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor. It could be anything. And I like that choice. And the fact that at the end, when they use the death ship, the Rolls Royce, to chop its head off, and then it sinks down into the muck, but then it comes back. You see the melty hand coming up out of the swamp, like, whoa, I'm returning, that it never ends. So classic kind of like formulaic in that respect, but I dug it. There's a weird quirkiness to it that I kind of liked, and it was like it kept me watching. I think that's the point, right?
That's the point. Yeah, it sucked you in. Yeah, exactly. It's fucking weird.
So
not as weird as the other shit that we're about to talk about.
So my question on this one, let me see. People talking in there. So my question about this one, because ostensibly Horror Hospital was a medical horror. Now I don't know why it was called Computer Killers. The computer aspect of it, where it's like played a very small part in the movie. It was literally that one scene, and I don't know why they called it Computer Killers. It was very weird, but I think it's pretty much a favorite medical horror. Thank you, Tina Jones. Thank you, hon. We do appreciate it. Favorite medical. What is everybody's favorite medical horror? So whether it be like surgical or whether it be genetics or whatever, what is your favorite medical horror film? Let me know. Let us know down in the comments below. Of course, here in the live chat or weekinhorror@gmail.com what you think is the best. Maybe what you think is the best medical horror film. We'd love to hear what you think. Give us your thoughts.
Does Silent Hill count?
I would say it's a medical one. I would say movies like Body Parts, Jeff Fahey's Body Parts. Yeah. You know, the transplanting organs, or Splice. Splice is a really, really good one.
Ooh, I got it.
Genetic engineering. What?
Repo, the genetic opera.
Oh, there you go. Ooh, Flatliners.
Oh yeah, Flatliners.
Flatliners. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Right. Autopsy was a good one. Autopsy with Robert Patrick. That was a solid one. Sir Cab says the original Coma messed me up for years. Nice. Oh, Jay versus Tusk. Yeah, you had amputations and stuff like that. City 2 says Demon Seed. Oh, Travis Brown says Dead Ringers. Nice.
Good one. Yep.
Coma was a good one. Yep. Cindy Super Flatliners. Hell yes. Sally Skellington is here. Good to see you, Sally. And says, I'm really late. Is it over? It is not over. We have just begun. We haven't even fired at the Turd Polisher 9000 yet. We haven't.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings another episode of Weekend Horror.
So there's a bunch of good ones out there. Let us know what your favorite one is or what you think is the best in the comments below. All right, man. I'm so glad I gave you this one. I really
didn't, though. The way that this worked out, you didn't. It just ended up because we had this written out with another person on here, and it wasn't going to go to me. And then you're like,
originally I thought it was going to be Eugene, but
which would have been great. He would. Okay. Anyways,
I know you want to talk about this.
All right, this next one is going to be Bad Biology. This was April 4th, 2008. Fucking here we go.
Let's watch the trailer. So creepy.
I love your lips, I love your hair, I love your skin. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, all I think of, I'll do anything for you, baby, anything. I want to spend every moment making you feel good, making you happy, protecting you. You're everything. I'll give my life meaning. It's not about sex. It's about marriage and children and doing both together. It's about us taking our love to the next level.
Perfect. You can kill me now.
How did they make the trailer almost as fucking insane as the movie?
I know, right? And they didn't show anything we couldn't show. We didn't show anything we couldn't show on YouTube.
I don't know, man. Anyways, this is written directed by Frank Henenlotter. This one, Charlie Danielson and Anthony Sneed were the main characters in this, followed up by Mark Wilson, Johnny Thornburg, Remedy, which, yeah. Tom Kohut, James Shell, Vivian Sanchez, Jesse Jane Clancy was in this one as well. I guess. So two people that have really weird kind of sexual anatomies end up unfortunately meeting. And then we get this escapade of the most unbelievably steampunk sex toys and some, well, I guess a lot of dead people. Well, yeah, a lot of dead people because of their... I feel like we can't even talk about this on YouTube.
We can talk about it on YouTube. We absolutely can.
It's rough. So how do you even, if you haven't seen it, I mean, like, okay, so let's see. There's a girl with an unfulfillable lust and a man with a part of his anatomy that likes to go off and do its own thing.
Okay, I think I can help with this. So yeah,
you probably could because I can't.
The film centers around the character of Jennifer, and Jennifer has a extremely over-evolved and hyperactive reproduction system. Ostensibly, she believes she has like seven or more possibly clitorises in her vagina. And so, like, all throughout, so she is extremely hypersensitive, like, and very, like, hyperactive as far as the reproductive system goes. And she is virtually unfulfillable. Like, she cannot be fulfilled from sexual activity. And she also has the weird, genetic weirdness of she can, after copulation, she typically conceives and produces an offspring within about 2 hours. And then drops it within a couple hours. And it's always like this weird mutant baby that she has got in the habit of just ditching them wherever she drops, wherever she happens to be. Then you have the boy in this love story, who plays Bats. And Bats had an accident with his genitalia, with his penis, and attempts to revive it and make it work again by utilizing like hormone treatments and steroids and all kinds of stuff. And he turns it into a giant sentient, thing that just like is just aggressive as hell. And so, and it's a drug addict. So it's addicted to drugs and is just this freaking monster. And so the two of them are destined to meet. Ostensibly the unstoppable object meets the immovable, or the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. And it is sentient, because at one point it leaves and goes on kind of a rampage across the town,
through the city, and then it comes back and it's sad.
We're talking the sucker is like bursting through the baseboards of people, of like girls' homes, and just like pow, and just doing its business till So the movie is very, very, Cindy Sue says, I've dated sentient dicks. So yeah. And I see so many people were like, what the fuck? I think that's the most we've ever seen. What was it? Sarkaz says Javers, what the fuck? Cindy Sue, WTF. Raven Darkstar, what the hell was that? Sally Skellington, what was that? Joshua Lee, what did I walk into? Travis Brown, thanks, Weekend Horror. You made my night crazy. And Brian Bell says, about what I want to do right now, scream. Absolutely. So it's a twist. Okay, so obviously, so the A through G spots. I'm thinking this probably like the A through Z spots, because the girl's got so many. In fact, the sequence when her first real serious boyfriend tries to go down on her and like looks in there, and then he's like, "No, get the fuck out!" When he was trying to force her out of the apartment. Shit was fucking hilarious. No, you gotta go.
Ah!
Shit was fucking great.
No.
So obviously the film is classic Henenlotter comic absurdity. This is the same director who did Basket Case 1 through 3, who did Frankenhooker,
Brain Damage.
Yeah, this is what he does. It's just gross out comic absurdity. But there's always something more there. But you have to admire it for obviously the willingness of the actors, the sheer absurdity. Obviously, when she walks in and she sees him and he's got his pants down, it's like, and he's like fighting the fucking thing. He's like punching it, and shit. So yeah, this is pure wonderful Henenlotter madness, is what it is.
Who knew that the villain in a movie could be just a giant detachable penis?
Well, I think when it comes off, when it goes out, when it like leaves, I think it's even a surprise to him. I think even he is shocked by this is a new development.
Hold
but
stand by, we have a development.
But so Henenlotter himself, obviously his history as a director is somewhat controversial. He does horror comedies. Basket Case is pretty much legendary. So is Frankenhooker. This is what he focuses on. Not to mention Brain Damage. And since then, since 2000, since this came out 2008, since then, it's pretty much just been him talking, basically having a career talking about, his inspirations and what gets him to what gets him to these points, like the films that he makes. Everything in this.
Can you imagine an interview? So, can you tell us what the fuck?
Absolutely. Okay, so Cindy Sue brings up, instead of vagina dentata, this movie is about vagina clitata. So Teeth, the movie Teeth, about the mutant girl with the vagina dentata, with the lamprey teeth in her vajayjay. She winds up turning into kind of a superhero that can get revenge against sexual people who try to come after her sexually. So those two films are these films are very similar. They both have their comedic elements. Obviously, Bad Biology is very much more in the absurdity factor, whereas there was much more of a dramatic tinge to Teeth, whereas that focused more on female identity, whereas this one used the absurdity of these their reproductive systems as a commentary for something more. Now, one thing that Aaron has always pointed out that I've loved him for is that filmmakers like Henenlotter and filmmakers like Abel Ferrara and other individuals who work in these kinds of absurdist horror comedy, sexploitation areas always have something very, very important that they're trying to say underneath. And underneath everything, they're trying to make a point about that. Like for example, Basket Case. Basket Case it was always about you get lost in the shock appeal of Belial, the fact that it's this detached twin that lives in a basket and it kills people and it wants to have sex with things and it looks absolutely horrible. So, but there's something underlying that, and there's something underlying the whole Basket Case, and there's always been about there is a beauty below everything. Whether it's New York. And it's like, it looks ugly on the front, it looks ugly on the surface, and it's dark and it's grimy, and the people are people, and they're wonderful people if you get to know them. That breaking past boundaries on the surface is not always the things aren't always what they appear to be, which is what Frank Henenlotter's always said. He's always had a love affair with the seediness of the city. And he's always shown that, yeah, you have this veneer of kind of like urban desolation. Oh, Aaron brings it up. Yeah, urban desolation. Okay. Or this kind of like decay, but there's always something intimate and beautiful underneath it. You just have to be willing to dig past that. You have to be willing to go farther. And that's what he's daring audiences to do, is to push past this fucking insanity that he's put on the film to see what's actually being said, because that's what life is like. That's what it's about. So it's not that the film needs to be turd polished. It's what the film is trying to do, what Henenlotter is trying to say.
Right. And okay, so underlying on this one, what's the message? What's the euphemism?
Okay, so in this particular one, and it's a very small part of it, but ostensibly Henenlotter's always been independent. Henenlotter has steadily been independent as a director. Other members that handle the kind of stuff he does are independent because studio films really don't dig this type of film. They don't dig these types of things. There is a small commentary with the character of Jennifer's job that runs throughout the entire film, and that is that because of who she is biologically, it informs the expression of her identity. And so as a photographer and a videographer, she's always pushing to the next level. She always wants to go extreme. Extremity is all she knows, because it's ostensibly what she is from a sexual aspect, from the sexual point of view, but her hyperactive sexuality drives that. But she is a woman of extremes. And so she pushes the boundaries in her artwork. For example, the photo shoot they were doing with the rappers and all the hot women, all the hot models, all have vagina face masks on. Now that's a very serious think about that commentary. It's
right.
Absurd to look at, especially when he's like fingering the mask and everything. It's all it's fucking weird. But you think about the commentary there. What Henenlotter is saying, what ostensibly the character is saying about how women are viewed, that's what they are. That ultimately that is what the entire industry is saying about them. And it's a brutal commentary, and that's what she's expressing. And the rappers themselves, they get it, but the studio doesn't. And they reject her ideas. It's like, we can't print this shit. What the fuck are you doing? So have you lost your mind? It's like, no. She's expressing this the way it is from her perspective. And Henenlotter has always done that. And is always fought for that. George Romero did the same thing. Independent films allowed him to express his ideas about society without studio interference, which is why Night of the Living Dead was so fantastic, which is why his independent films are far superior in narrative than his studio films. His studio films just have better polish, okay? But when it comes down to it, you have to have the freedom to do this, to chase who you are, to be who you are, to kind of live your truth. which is what Henenlotter is doing, which is what his characters are doing, are living their truths beyond the absurdity or even the consequences of that, because you have to embrace those consequences if you're going to be yourself. Like Henenlotter, relegated to indie horror for you forever.
Right.
Well, that's cool. That's him. That's who he is.
That's who
Deal with, accept this thing. It's about identity and acceptance, which hit me very hard. And I not, no pun intended, but hit me very hard watching this. And I was like, holy fuck. Whereas this is the most absurd of all of his work. Yeah, we're talking like big, giant, pulsating penises injecting drugs into them so that you can utilize them for reproduction and stuff. Very weird shit. But ultimately, he's saying, I think his most important message here is that, yeah, you've got to be willing to be yourself. Fuck what they say. Don't be who they tell you to be, or don't be what they say you to be if you want to, even if you just want the money and be successful. You've got to be willing to take risks. And that's why I think Henenlotter, this was his last movie in 2008. He hasn't done a full-fledged feature since then, because I don't think he feels he needs to.
No, he made a very good point with the few films that he did. You know, like you said, Basket Case. It'll blow you out of the water if you sit and actually take the time to see what he was trying to do. And you're right. And Aaron said the message is that people who live stream from garages shouldn't talk shit about people's visions. That's not what I was doing at all. I was curious as to what you pulled away from this movie. And you know, you can look at it from like so many different points of view. That's why anything that I've seen from him, he got different views from everybody that sees it. You know, this could be like a romance thing, or it could be like you're saying, you got one person that has this problem and leans into our identity so much, you know, kind of gives into it and tries to ride the highest high that you can. And you got one person that's got a problem that just wants it to go away and doesn't want it to be, you know, a part of them anymore. And they both kind of figure out how to get their way until they meet, which is, like you said, immovable object, unstoppable force situation, where it's like one person is standing their ground and one person is just trying to fucking get through life because they're not happy with it. And so, you know, it boils down to how they fight their own individual fights that inevitably decide their fate at the end of the movie. And it, you know, unfortunately ends with just the most grotesque shit you'll ever see. But
the mutated penis baby was pretty fucked up.
Baby half penis, yeah, that was pretty fucked. But you know, and one person ends up falling at the end, and because you know you go too hard into something, or you get too passionate, you hurt everybody around you. It's inevitably going to come back and kick you in the ass, and it does. Right. And so it is. It's deep, but like stuff like this, it's you get movies where you got the writers and directors and everybody in there. They're trying to make a point, and then they beat it so hard that it's like, okay, like I fucking get it now. Like make art out of it. Don't just sit there and beat the same point over and over in my head. And you have movies like this that leave it open. And movies like this that leave it open for interpretation. So like I appreciate the style of being able to sit there and think about it for myself. And while you're watching, it's like, oh my god, that's fucking insane. And the shock value is there, and you're like, that was nuts. And then you think about it for a few hours or a couple of days, and you're like, wait, hold on, is that what they were trying to portray? And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then you rethink the whole movie, and so it's in your head over and over and over again. So they did, you know, it's art, and it's art done well, even if it is absolutely fucking insane.
It's just absolutely bonkers. And what you're talking about was summed up. And that's what's interesting, is that there's so much absurdity, it's hard to catch it. And going back, if you watch, the whole thing is summed up in the meeting between and literally it's just like in the story itself, it's just like plot device. It's getting the character of Jennifer from point A to point B. In that, it's literally when she goes to turn in the product, and then the publisher or the editor is looking at what she's submitted and is just appalled by what he sees. Right. And so like the whole heart of the film is that one scene, and it has virtually nothing to do with the fact that this woman who is so overstimulated, she winds up killing or murdering the partners that she sleeps with, and this guy who has this giant prehensile sentient penis that is totally insatiable and wants drugs, that he needs it is so out of control, he needs a steampunk industrial masturbator to get him off. It's fucking wild. And that's what I dug about it, because it's buried. You have to look at it. You have to be willing to look at it. That's the thing. You have to be willing to look past it. Look past the complete absurdity. And yes, there was gratuitous nudity in this, and there was also gratuitous language in that respect that Very, very graphic a very graphic depiction of a woman talking about her reproductive parts. I honestly, it's my opinion that Charlie Danielson knocked this one out of the fucking park. I know a Henenlotter, cast her because she was dating his script partner at the time, Thornburn. So Thorburn and Henenlotter wrote it together, and Danielson was dating Thorburn at the time, and she requested to be cast in it. And when she came in, Henenlotter tried to scare her off to see how committed she was to the production, and she was like, "Nah, not going to happen. It's got to be done." And so she stayed on, and I think she knocked out of the fucking park. And then the actor who played Bats, which was Anthony Sneed read the script and was like, "Holy shit!" And he was about to not be cast because Henenlotter didn't think he could play who could look junky enough, and so he dropped 30 pounds to secure the role because both of them saw the importance of what was being said as far as staying true to your art, staying true to yourself. Fuck what people are going to critique, because as long as you're saying what you want to say, as long as you have something personal to say, then you've done something. You've made something. Just like I've always held that Kevin Smith, and this is totally out of left field, but Chasing Amy is his most important film because Chasing Amy was a direct reflection from a point in Kevin Smith's life. That was when the whole commentary, when I have something personal to say, that's what makes great art. And the character of Holden, how they released this one comic, which was deeply personal to them. It blew up, made them rich, and now they're doing Blood Man and Chronic. So that's that deal. It's like, it was when you have something personal to say, that's what's important. That's what Henenlotter has always stayed true to. Is like, make the films you want to make. Fuck what they're going to say. History will be the decider. And I think that this is what's important, that indie film is kind of like the last bastion of the legitimate artist. Yes, it's a business. Yes, we have to make money. I get that. Your films have to make money so you can make another movie. That makes sense. Sometimes, like Henenlotter has only made a handful over his entire career. Sure, it happens. And he hasn't made one. He hasn't made a feature since 2008. It happens. But to sit there and be like, I am completely satisfied with my entire filmography. Every film is one I wanted to make. Fuck yeah. Who can say that?
Not very many people. And that's like, I mean, you want to talk about commitment. You can really get into the commitment of Henenlotter on this. He was diagnosed with cancer a month prior to the shooting of this. And he'd get up every morning, get his radiation, and then be on set by 9 o'clock every morning to do that day's shoot. So like, it speaks to his commitment level. He wanted everybody to be as committed as he was, and
right.
It shows in a lot of this. And you got people like Anthony Sneed, who he was like one of the first like major actors to kind of come off of. They found him on MySpace, like he was discovered on MySpace. So it was just kind of like, it's cool that it's not top A-listers or anything that were going to do this. So they had to find somebody kind of underground. And they discovered this dude on MySpace, so it's kind of cool. Give him a chance. It got him out there. But yeah, the commitment on set was insane.
Yeah. And Sally Skellington, cool. I just heard your Wi-Fi. I saw that your Wi-Fi is going out a bit, so I hope you dig the replay when you catch the rest of it. Extra J, good to see you. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. I just saw that you popped in. Aaron Ray says, all nudity is gratuitous. You think Michelangelo wasn't hoping to make a few bucks off of David's tiny pee-pee? I think that was I don't think he deliberately did that. I think he was just conveying it. When it is at rest, that's what he was conveying. That's it. He's like, I'm gonna make this thing small. So, Raven Dark says, was it just me or is the stream going batty? I don't think so. We haven't got any hiccups and no notifications. I have the live on, so for the trivia question tonight. So I don't think so. Seems to be going okay. All right.
Besides the absolute insane trailer we just showed, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking insane. So, but that's the beauty of creative freedom. That's what I think is the takeaway of a movie like Bad Biology. It's not going to sit with everybody. Henenlotter's work is niche. To be fair, that not everybody digs it. I know some people that that absolutely do not like the Basket Case series, that did not like Frankenhooker, that found them overly gross and found the cinematography disturbing in that respect. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you have this particular sequence? And I think that there's that beauty in there's that horrific beauty in capturing reality, shooting particular sequences that I think hit a little too close to home for some audiences. They see it and they see a reflection of themselves to a degree. It's an absurd reflection, like a funhouse mirror, but it speaks to them. And I think Henenlotter's work speaks to people on a level that a lot of people, like a lot of, I would say, mainstream mainstream consumers are just not ready to deal with. That they see that they can take a piece away and be like, Aaron Race is right. Frankenhooker is a goddamn masterpiece. It absolutely is. But, you know, what are you going to do? Still, if you have the stomach for it and you can see the laughter and we've talked about what Henenlotter's underlying message, I think people would dig this movie. You know, it's out there, it's online. You can see it, or you can get it on DVD. But I think Henenlotter really hit the nail on the head.
Get the fuck out. Hit the nail on that. Jesus. Hey, did you know the dress the hooker wore in the prostitute was the
the one that he gave like infinite orgasms to, and she couldn't stop orgasming?
For like
it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
He's trying to get her to stop.
But yeah,
and he just dumps her on the street. I don't know what to do with you.
Enjoy. See you later. But the dress she was wearing was the same dress that Frankenhooker wore.
Very cool. That's amazing.
All right. Well, we've still got some Italian shit to do and
we do the CTA?
Polish. So yeah, we're gonna move on to the CTA, which I'd like to ask the audience. There's not many of them, so we're gonna get a lot of repeats. But I'm interested to see which one is y'all's favorite Henenlotter film. What is your favorite Frank Henenlotter film? And like you said, JL, I think Bad Biology was the last one that he did in 2008, and then he did a few documentaries and
some documentary stuff, but we haven't gotten a good solid feature from him in a long time.
Yeah.
Cindy Sue says she was faking it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was, but she did a good job.
Good fake.
Travis Brown says Brain Damage. Brain Damage was good, and Brain Damage was his commentary on. Someone brought it up earlier in the live chat that Brain Damage was Henenlotter's commentary on drug problems in the 80s. Absolutely was. Frankenhooker was also magnificent. I personally really love Basket Case. Whenever I see it on, I will stop and I will watch it. I saw it once I was young. That's the one that left the biggest impression on me was Basket Case, and how it essentially kind of convinced me you can make a monster out of anything. I really, really enjoyed it. It was graphic. It was brutal. Lots of boobies. But there was something about it that just kind of like was very visceral for me, and so I'll always go back and watch it. I love all of Frank Henenlotter's, but my favorite's got to be Basket Case. What about you?
Yeah, I was gonna comment on Basket Case 3.
Oh fuck yeah! When he has the babies and shit.
Yeah, because it was the same idea, but way the fuck more out there. So I think he refined his vision on that one. Because 2 it wasn't bad. 2 was good too. Like the whole series was good. But
the whole trilogy was solid. I'll always remember was it from 3 or from 2? I haven't watched them in so long. When Belial grabs the officer's head and turns it around backwards, that's like that. Shit was fucking hilarious. It's fucking funny. He's like I think he makes like it was like it was funny. It was fucking ridiculous. Oh, so funny. Oh, but yes. Let's jump on to our next one. What is our next one? The next one. We're going back in time. We're going back.
Yeah, this one's pretty out there.
Yeah, we're going into horror history. So let me go ahead and pull this one. So we are going to go back to 1957, April 5th, 1957, and the film I Vampiri, or in English, The Vampires.
Or Lust of the Vampire.
Or Lust of the Vampire. Or The Devil's Commandment. It has many titles. It does. So let's check out this trailer. The Devil's Commandment.
The Devil's Commandment. A fiend speaks, and beautiful girls become the victims of the most terrifying bloodlust ever shown on the screen.
1957.
all the fearsome legends you have ever heard about vampires become terrifying scientific fact before your startled eyes. Incredible but true, this man will rule the world, and this woman, ancient and withered, will become his consort in evil. But more victims are needed to invigorate her blood. Come with this girl into bondage in a castle of horror. And discover what you will always remember as the shock of your life.
Who are you staring at? You look like something's the matter that way.
This sequence is amazing. Nice. Oh, yeah. Looking forward to talking about this one. So we have I Vampiri, or The Vampires, or The Devil's Commandment. So many different names in this one. But yes, directed by Ricardo Fredo and Mario Bava. Mario Bava also worked on the film with Ricardo, and Ricardo actually deuced out before the film was in, and Bava had to pick it up. So directed by Ricardo Fredo and Mario Bava. Screenplay by Piero Regnoli and Ricardo Fredo. And starring Gianna Maria Canale, Carlo D'Angelo, Dario Michaelis, Wandisa Guida, and Antoine Balpetre, and Paul Mueller. So the film is actually about a series of murders that are committed on, or a series of murders of young women around the town who are found with all their blood drained. And the newspapers get a hold of it and start reporting that these women are victims of the vampire. And then a young journalist named Lanton begins to research the crimes and uncovers this conspiracy of this kind of cult of individuals led by the Dugrand family, which is kidnapping young women, draining their blood, and using it to kind of revitalize their matriarch and keep her alive throughout the centuries. And so it's about the scientific kind of blood transfusion. So, which is weird because it's I Vampiri, but there are no vampires in it. It's just about, blood transfusions and using that to revitalize the matriarch of this group. But otherwise, a very intriguing film. Now, this particular one, really didn't land well at the box office when it hit. Italian audiences were not very impressed, but it has to be pointed out. The reason I wanted to talk about this one is that Bava and Ricardo made cinematic history with this one, because this was the very first Italian horror film to be filmed in sound.
And they did fucking wonderfully.
Yes, they did.
Absolutely. Because you can see, they got to take a silent film. Now they got to put the sound to it. Nobody's ever, done this on the screen and put it out there. And it takes balls, because it's not, a lot of shit's not lined up right. And a lot of sounds don't fit because they put it in their posts. It's like a lot of post sound that you can really pick out. But they did a really good job for being 1957. And that was the thing. The box office didn't really, people were confused. They're like, what? No, that sounds terrible. Like, you make the sounds in your head, stupid. Why would you put it on the screen?
It was odd. The reason I Vampiri I think is worthy of talking about, obviously from a critical perspective, it's really about this film's place in horror history, especially Italian horror. So one thing that's important to remember, culturally speaking, at the time, this film came out in 1957. It was the first Italian horror film to have sound. So it was breaking new ground in that respect. But this was also, at the time, this was 1957. This was like a little more than 10 years after the end of World War II. And of course, understanding Italy's history with fascism and the controls that Mussolini had put upon film production at the time, that there were strict, tight controls about what people could watch and what people could produce in Italy. And after that was done, the boom of post-World War II Italy, Mussolini was gone, the economy was boosted in the post-war era, and everybody was happy because the war was over. Mussolini was gone. It's an era of prosperity. Everybody seems to be happy, and then all of a sudden, very similar to the converse, when things are down, like you imagine America, Great Depression, you know, there's no money, no jobs, everybody's destitute, everybody's scraping me by. People don't want to watch scary movies. People don't want to watch terrifying shit. They want films that will make them happy. They want films to forget their problems. They want escapism. So just like in dark times, people like comedy, they like romance, they like things that they're like nationalistic stuff that kind of make them proud of where they live. In times of prosperity, the kind of like the zeal for the macabre and for the scary and the frightening and the fear and the desolate, scary topics, giallo stuff, the stuff that giallo is made of. There was a lust for this, that people wanted it. They suddenly were becoming more and more popular, which is what inspired them to make this movie. And you can see all of the giallo, inspirations here, which it's mostly a detective film. The use of black and white, things framed like they would appear on a page. You have these kind of like these large cinematic moments of and the use of shadows, the constant use of shadows behind walls, where you can get the whole like distorted image of the bad guy creeping up on you, playing with light and playing with shadow, and how I could imagine almost every scene in this depicted like on a page in a giallo, in those little yellow backs they used to sell, like, the special sequence on the staircase, which is like, you can see that. And you can see that inspiration there. But the problem was, it also made it a bit talky, and the procedurals of the stuff you'd be reading played out a little too long, and so kind of drags the film down a little bit. But the elements are there. The kidnapping. It's a very grisly production, despite what they didn't show. But this film in itself is literally a personification of Italy's release from fascism, what they desired, what they wanted to enjoy again. The breath of freedom to explore these things when times outside are not so dark.
Right. And you get, the fear is gone, because this is what, 12 years after Mussolini. The fear is gone. They're starting to really refine themselves as a culture, and they're pissed. There's a lot of stuff that was missed because of oppression, and like you said, they come out of it and they're going to come fucking swinging, and they're going to push the boundaries. These people are sitting there, they've got these ideas in their head, and they're putting them out there. With Italian horror, it's always been cutting edge, not cutting edge, maybe ahead of its time.
I'll say, like cinematography, this film was fucking gorgeous.
It was ridiculous, and like you said during the preview, you got the scene where you got the woman in the bathtub. That was probably, when it's like, whoa, we can't be showing any of that. And then, of course, he's got like a rag in his hand. The only thing I can think of in my head is, does this rag smell like chloroform to you? But then, it's just like
But Kev says I'm searching for subtext. I'm not searching for subtext. What I'm saying is that the culture of Italy at the time needed these things, and that's what kind of gave the opportunity for filmmakers like Mario Bava and Riccardo to push forward and do this. And of course, like Lucio Fulci and Diodato. These individuals got the opportunity in post-World War II Italy to really start ramping, like the whole genre kind of exploded. Now, it wasn't I Vampiri that did it. It was when 1963's Dracula blew up. That is when Hammer Horror started dropping its versions of the Universal monsters, when Christopher Lee, when these individuals are coming in and portraying these things. That is when horror really exploded, especially vampire horror exploded in Italy. But that's also why it pushed so hard, and Italy got so like progressively more grotesque. The big high gore stuff, they kept going further and further and further until you get movies like Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust and fucking fucking Zombie. That's a result of that Italians were eating this shit up. But we wouldn't have that if Riccardo here hadn't had the idea to tell this story.
Right.
And he would have gotten the opportunity had it not been for the fall of fascism in Italy, which was very, very important. Why I Vampiri is so important is because it's literally the door opening. It doesn't make the film, it makes the film more appreciable. It doesn't make the film better. The film has its own problems, of course, but there's also really good stuff that they did. The cinematography is beautiful. I love, you pointed out, Alex, the way the film was shot. use of light, the use of shadow, the use of the elements in gallery that normally you'd only read or you have to make up in your head, were all wonderful. It was beautifully done. The sequence on the staircase, okay, the aging sequence, because this is black and white, and so utilizing different makeup on the actress and then utilizing different different colors over the lights and changing between those to get the aging effect backwards and forwards is brilliant, because she's standing there and it's like, oh, she's changing colors and shit, and she's getting older and more. No, they're just altering the light. The light, the color you don't see, because the makeup only comes up under certain colors. Brilliant stuff.
Yep.
Really smart filmmaking.
God, using light filters and different colored makeup. I want to see her face in color. I want to see what that makeup looked like, because it would have been wild. And how long did it take to come up with that? It's done smoothly. All the transitions and cuts and everything are done pretty smooth for that time. They put a lot of hard work into that for sure. God,
it was really good stuff. Yeah.
Talk about oppressing an entire culture and then just letting it fucking loose. It's like,
and letting it loose.
Yeah, freedom of expression. Let's go.
Oh, they embraced it hard, because because Italy was not really subject to British ban at the time, or even the Hays Code. So film, but that was also a problem, is that things like the Hays Code didn't allow for many movies to be transferred over until they were cut, until they were heavily edited in order to be brought over to American audiences. But Italian directors, after the fall of Mussolini, and all of a sudden all of his bullshit censorship was disappeared, everybody could do anything. And you get like 1957 showing a woman in a bathtub, showing her legs and shit. That's fucking unheard of.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking 1960 Psycho showed a toilet, and American audiences were like,
that was a problem.
That was a problem. So it's like, what the shit? So yeah, I love that they push boundaries. They were always willing to push boundaries, and always willing to find new ways to tell stories, and to do that, to really showcase reality, to embrace that kind of giallo sensibility, and show the darkness and the seediness, the things that we'd rather not talk about, and show that we can put these on film and they're amazing. Even though I think I Vampiro is a little too talky, it didn't show as much. It did more talking than showing, which I think was problematic. It was kind of drawn. The pacing was pretty slow, and the procedural aspects were just too intense.
Drawn out.
Which is why I got the detective sense of it. But I loved the idea that we had this kind of Kolchak character in the young reporter. I dug that. And I could see that Darren McGavin may have taken some inspiration from that, from the idea of that. So unfortunately, McGavin passed away some time ago. But to think, it's like, if he had taken that inspiration, from the character of Lente, I thought that would have been pretty cool. Because I saw kind of like Kolchak aspects to that character. And of course, Darren put his own spin on it, but you could see where ideas like that are born in Italian cinema. They gave us a lot. A lot of what we take for granted in Westerns came from spaghetti Western Sergio Leone. Their inspiration on Western cinema has been amazing.
It's so much more influential than you even know. Like, you don't think about Westerns and be like, yeah, Italians. Like, no, dude, it was all the Italians. We wouldn't have Westerns if it wasn't for them.
Look, the sweeping plains of America. No, dude, that's Italy.
That's Italy. That's clearly Italy. There's a guy out there with a mustache and a meatball. Like, let's go. Joking.
I dug this one. They shot it in Rome, and it's just absolutely beautiful set pieces. The production value is just top notch. I love movies that shoot in cities that have such history. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Everything was so smartly done, and the only big problem is, and you can kind of tell, is that Ricardo had a particular view. Fredo had a particular vision when it came to the film, and when you get into like the back half of the third act, you can see that there's a tonal shift, and that is because the ending was changed when Fredo left the production, and Bava was forced to pick it up and run with that and kind of finish the film really quick. And you can kind of tell at the moment when it happens, about halfway through the third act, you can tell there's a bit of a tonal shift when you were trying to get this thing wrapped up. And I get why it happened. There was creative difficulties there, and Fredo had kind of a history, kind of a reputation. He was a solid filmmaker. People respected him, but he could be tough creatively, and he really wasn't a giant fan of horror films. He really liked detective noir, and so that's why you have such an element there. And I can see why it happens, and they're breaking new ground. First one through the door always gets bloody. And I have no doubt that's the reason this happened. In fact, because the film wasn't successful, that's why Bava went on to do Kaltiki, but Kaltiki was released under a different name because Italians weren't really embracing the horror that as quickly, and he thought that under a more American style name that they might embrace it faster, which they did, as a matter of fact, which was weird. And so Kaltiki came out for this one. We talked about Kaltiki on the show.
Yeah, a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a few months ago.
Kaltiki, the Immortal Monster.
The Immortal Monster. Fuck yeah. So I found this one to be really interesting from a historical perspective. Filmmaking wise, they make some really good choices. It's a beautifully shot film. I loved how this was shot and so smartly done. Use of light and shadow. There's a charm to black and white productions that the color just can't capture. No. And going back and watching these and knowing what was going on behind the time, knowing that the influences on Bava, the influences on Fredo, the influences on the crew, on the storytelling, the period of history they were just coming out of, the story they were trying to tell, what they were working from. Absolutely beautiful shit. And I thought it was really, really smart. I don't think it gets the love that it deserves, but from a historical perspective, I think, it's legendary because it opened the door. We wouldn't have all of the crazy fucking Italian horror films that we have today were it not for Bava and Fredo busting in and being like, let's do it. Let's embrace this shit. Give the people what they want. It didn't work out so well, but it started the ball rolling. That's what's important. But I don't think anybody's going to disagree when we say individuals like Fulci and Bava and fucking Diodato and other individuals, fucking Dario Argento. These were groundbreaking artists, groundbreaking directors who had very specific vision, and you can't replicate what you're doing. You can't replicate them.
If you're not putting your whole heart into it, it's just going to be another cash grab. But you put your heart, your soul, and you're like, hey, let's fuck this shit up and do something new. Let's open a new door. You know what? We just got over some really hard shit. Let's focus on something that's not as serious as everything else that's going on, and it helps. And like you said, it opens doors. It's pretty crazy to think there was a time where this was the biggest thing. This is the newest, latest, greatest thing. That's cool. Fucking the history behind all that's pretty cool.
Definitely. I thought it's definitely fun. I really, really dug it, and society will always have that taste for it. We'll always have that taste to explore our darker fantasies, to explore the things that we'd rather not talk about, that we need that kind of vicarious expression in theaters to deal with these things, to be, especially in times of when the world is in a state of chaos and we don't know what's going to happen next, and people are living in fear. The same thing with America. Sure, there were bans, the Hays Code, try to put serious controls on film itself, but those movies still got out, because there will always be visionary individuals who recognize why we need the horror genre. The individuals like whoever it was, the unnamed hero that saved Nosferatu from being destroyed.
Yeah.
So that we now have it today. When it was court ordered to be destroyed, but they didn't get rid of it. Now we have it today. So
you're not wrong. And the thing that really that I love about horror is, like you said, there's a need for it in a society. Because you look at these things and you can connect in horror movies. They connect with people more than any other genre, in a primal way. There's stuff in horror movies you're like, oh shit, people think the same way that I do. The way that I'm thinking is not weird. It's a normal human thought, but it's kind of scary, and I've been told that it's not okay. And so you get into some of these genres where the actors, the characters have feelings or urges or desire that is kind of weird, but it's no, see, other people think that same shit. Right. You're not weird. You're not fucked up because
you're not alone.
That's just human fucking nature. Humans are twisted creatures.
Sometimes it's like sneaky. It's like stealing your parents' cigarettes.
Right.
It's like stealing your dad's cigarettes or your mom's cigarettes. It'd be like
everybody did it. Everybody thinks about it. Like, yeah.
Ooh, I'm cool now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that titillating feeling where we try to really go after this, and this is why we love it. This is why why we all here at Week in Horror love this. Sir Cab says Argento now has a very special place in my heart. I appreciate Week in Horror for introducing me to those films. Fuck yes, that is the beauty right there. To hear that is just the validation that we it feels so good to know that we were able to introduce somebody to someone as introduce a member of our audience to someone as legendary as Argento, and so many fantastic films, and the chance, I tell you, man, and I love it when I got that validation of being able to introduce members of our audience to Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
When it blew my mind that there was somebody that lived that hadn't seen it, that was a horror fan that hadn't seen this movie. You have to go watch it. And then being able to tell Tom Atkins that this podcast gave him the opportunity to introduce new people to your movie, to this movie, it's just been one of the highlights of doing this show. And the opportunity to do this, to bring that's why we talk about all horror. It's, it's an amazing fucking genre. Crafty Keela is here. Good to see you, Crafty, who I think popped in at the right time because bad biology might have sent her running. I'll just say that. But
hey, nah, never mind.
Good to see you, Crafty. Thanks so much for hanging out on. We do appreciate you being here. No, wrote an LSA says jail is saying the asylum will herald in a new golden age of cinema. You take those words back, sir. You take those words back. That is no, absolutely not. No. They'll always set the bar. Well, they set the bar pretty low. They'll always be a good demonstration of what not to do. We're just gonna put it there.
I didn't think the bar could get any lower, but here I am, playing limbo with the devil.
So, given I Vampiri's importance in Italian horror history is also horror history as well, as far as the advent of sound in films. But Italy has always been known for its groundbreaking directors and directors always willing to push boundaries and really show something to its audience, to really freak them out or really make them question things and dig deep to kind of get to the heart of the matter. I love it, and I've always loved Italian horror, and I know everybody here loves Italian horror as well. So, but my question is, what, in your opinion, is the greatest Italian horror film? What do you think of all the magnificent ones we've gotten, from Argento, to Bava, Fulci, Diodato, whoever you might name? Let us know in the comments below, or of course in the live chat, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com, what you think the greatest Italian horror film is. Love to hear your thoughts on that, because there's so many good ones to choose from. I'm thinking I'm going to make a prediction. Travis Brown is going to say House by the Cemetery. He's going to say that one. I'm predicting that. Oh no, fuck! He said Suspiria. Son of a bitch.
Damn. Shit.
So he says Suspiria. My bad. Okay, my prediction came false. My prediction was proven false. Craft Tequila says, I watch everything back when I get time. I don't think anything will be that bad to make me stay away. Okay. All right. Yeah, Sir Cat says, I'm biased. I love the Gates trilogy. Fuck yes. The Gates trilogy is amazing. So many good ones. But definitely let us know in the comments below what you think the greatest Italian horror film is.
Yeah, but don't answer that until you go and watch 2022's It's Not a Wolf. Non Neon Lupo. Nothing? You haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
You have to.
Oh, great. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. You got to watch that and Velocipaster in the same night if you haven't seen it.
Oh, no. You got to combine Velocipaster with Lamageddon.
Oh, dude, yeah, you're right.
That's your fucking double feature right there.
Lamageddon. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so bad.
It's so bad, it's rad. So bad. Extra J brings up Cemetery Man, because why not? Fuck yeah. So many good ones. Yeah. All right, bud. We got one more to talk about. All right. I know. I'm giving you all the winners tonight, I swear.
All right, y'all. It's time to bust out the Turd Polisher 3000.
I'm actually going to bust it out because I don't think it's possible. This is the one that we're talking about. If I tried to turd polish this fucker, it's going to disappear. So.
All right, we're talking about Bled, April 7th, 2009.
Oh, Crap Tequila said a horror movie jail hasn't seen? What has happened to the world? There's a few. Not many.
To be fair, it just came out, and it is very fucking far. You got to dig for it.
Okay, so it's obscure now. So
Yeah,
that's pretty deep. So yeah, but I
pretty-
will, now that you told me about it, I will definitely watch it. Let's check out this trailer for Bled.
Someone once told me, immortality comes not without sacrifice.
Movie.
It delivers you from reality to a world where all is possible. The effect on the mind is like a dream, but something lives within that dream.
Si? How'd you get in here?
I'm so sorry I've misled you. You are near to giving me what I need.
And that was it. That was the whole movie. This one's directed by Christopher Hudson and written by, couldn't pronounce it to save my life.
Was that Elon Musk's kid?
It's literally spelled SXV''LEITHAN. So is it Slythan Essex?
Slythan Essex? I guess. I'm not
close
even.
enough.
I wish Eugene was trying to pronounce it.
That would be great. This one has Sarah Faruqi, Chris Ivan-Sevic, Alex Petrovich, Michelle Morrow, Jonathan Oldham, and Eric Green. And okay, so mysterious drug kind of makes this artist trip out. She develops this thirst for blood, and then kind of attracts this interdimensional thing. Vampire trying to get over into her world, and so it's kind of like a purgatory type, trying to pull himself out of this purgatory place into reality. And yeah, it's just a lot of fucking people getting eaten, I guess. It's pretty much the movie. You saw it all in the trailer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, everything that you need to know about the film was in the trailer. And there is no turd polisher on this one. Sarcasm brings up the saving factor in this film is definitely cinematography and lighting. It was so dark but still well lit. I really appreciated that skill. I will hand it to you. From a cinematography perspective, yes, the use of light and shadow and the differentiation between portraying the real world and the interdimensional space where the vampire or the vampiric creature is located, I dug it. It put a very much a kind of like horror fantasy vibe on it. A kind of blending of aspects of Bram Stoker's Dracula with the Anne Rice kind of sensibility of that. Really what this film is an unnecessary Dracula revisit, because you've got Dracula who is in its like monstrous form, who is trapped in this interdimensional space. Renfield is this servant that's in the real world that's trying to set up the conditions in order to bring his master back into the real world. You've got the brides that are hanging out there. And then of course, people to access this interdimensional space, people have to like take this drug. They take this drug, they get high, and it allows them to kind of project into this space and then meet this creature and then become vampires themselves. The whole point is to create something that can be in this plane that can then transfer over. So they turn her into a vampire so that she can move over and that the master can come into reality again. There is some good, smart cinematography that's in the film, but ultimately this thing is dragged down by atrocious writing, atrocious acting, and just and the problem is I would say a nonsensical plot, but it really was nonsensical. It worked. It was formula, Act 1, 2, and 3, but ultimately just unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. Plot.
Yeah, it was very two-dimensional. There wasn't any depth to it. It was girl does drugs, bad thing happens. It happens to involve vampires, and we don't even get the aspects of like you would expect. Like if you want to go sexy vampires, you want to put sexiness in vampires, then actually do it.
Right,
Like
right.
go the distance.
Don't
But they never
insinuate it
do.
and never, yeah. It's just insinuated and yeah. I don't know. The cinematography was all right. Like you said, there's kind of like that good play between like the other world and kind of like Insidious type, filmography with the lighting and kind of dulling out the world to show that, yeah, which is great. But again, now we're polishing the turd, like you said.
Right. And
Acting.
sarcasm's right. He's like, I'm definitely not saying it was good. I'm saying it was pretty. Visually, it's not bad.
Yeah,
It's not,
no.
but visually is not, obviously, sarcasm will agree, visually is not going to save your movie. Sound-wise, didn't do anything intriguing, didn't do anything that anybody else hasn't done. There was definitely a Blumhouse feel to this, despite the fact that it's a Lionsgate film. The acting, I mean, there was one actor who kind of held it together, and that was Michelle Morrow's Lucy kind of character, because everybody plays roles that we've seen before. You've got Renfield, you've got Dracula, you got the brides, then you've got the girl who is essentially the kind of the Mina character. She's the raven-haired, fair-skinned girl who's the one who's in love with Dracula. Then you have the blonde-haired Lucy character. It really is just Dracula. It's just a kind of modern take on Dracula involving drugs and the party scene, and like, I'm a goofy kind of artist, kind of like this Tim Burton-y kind of feel to it, with a little bit of 30 Days of Night. And nothing is new. There's nothing new brought to it. There's nothing deep about it. There's not even the transcendent love story. It's just a monster trying to break into our reality by feeding on someone who's astrally projecting to him. That's pretty much all it is. And
somebody just had a bad Wednesday. That's all.
Yeah. It wrote notes to keep the DP, fire the writer. Technically, there were some smart decisions there. There was smart stuff done, especially in depicting the otherworldly realm. But like I said, there's just not enough new brought to this one. Yeah, there's some intriguing moments. You could watch it for the visual flair of it. How they depict the vampire. The monster itself is kind of a butterface. And when I say that, I mean that everything from the neck down looked pretty badass, but from the neck up, the head looked goofy as fuck. Looked more like a combination of the bat head from Bram Stoker's with a crawler from The Descent.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, so it was weak in that respect. Oh, and Joshua Lee, you're very welcome. I did catch that. Says, in case I appreciate being a part of this group. You have taught me again that it's okay to be me and that I'm not alone. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. 100%. That's the beauty of it. Rodin Same says, a cheap From Beyond ripoff. I can see some elements there, but that's the problem. Is that you watch this film, like a film like Bled, makes you want to watch other films that did it better. Right.
Well, and that's kind of what's disappointing about this, is that it is Lionsgate, and you kind of brushed over that a little bit. Like it's a Lionsgate film. They're not going to do anything like truly groundbreaking necessarily. They did have stuff like like American Psycho and but for the most part they just take kind of known elements. They do it safe and they do it well relatively. Right. There's I couldn't pick out too many bad Lionsgate, but they're just mediocre. And it's always kind of that way. With this one, it was like they just didn't try quite as hard as they normally do. Because you get some good stuff. Like I'm trying to think of the other big not American Psycho, Lionsgate, Cabin in the Woods. Like that was cool. That was like, okay, look, we're gonna take all of the fucking tropes and we're gonna put it into one movie and make it cool and funny and we're going to use A-list.
Well, they also had the minds behind that. Like they had legitimate pedigrees that were behind it. Like Goddard and of course Joss Whedon, and of course they had access, which with them brings access to the talent. This one, and of course sarcasm brings up, Lionsgate was fully behind Saw. That's where the lion's share of the money went. But yeah, is what Sir Craft Tequila brings up. You spend years trying to write something somewhat new to a genre that's had everything written already, only for JL to tear it apart in 3 minutes. I honestly think that because we, from understanding the industry perspective, Lionsgate's got to put this. There's a reason this movie went straight to DVD. Did not see a theatrical release. It wasn't a big one, and the reason for that is because typically movies like this are made because Lionsgate has a script on its books, and they either need to get rid of it, and they'll use it for a tax write-off. Essentially, the film is intended to be a loss, so they can write that loss off on that year's taxes. You have to have a corporation can have a certain amount of loss they could write off, so they can kind of so they won't take the hit, and that's what Bled I think is meant to be. It's formulaic. It's not really an inspired piece. It takes way too much from stuff from productions that did it better. Everybody is just a copy of a copy of a copy. It's kind of like Batman. It's kind of like Superman Returns, where you've got this new story, but you've got every actor in it doing an impersonation of the actors that did it better before them. Brandon Routh, Kay Bosworth, Kevin Spacey, just copying what's been done, just rote copying, and there's nothing new. And so if there is any talent in front of the camera in this, we don't really see it. And if there's any talent behind the camera, it's pretty much just the DP, where we get some interesting shots and some interesting camera work, but only in the sparse moments that we're in the fantasy realm or in the interdimensional pocket. Right. Otherwise, it's just basic shit. So one that you could definitely pass on, even if you're a vampire fanatic. I mean, if you're a vampire fanatic, definitely watch it so you can get your vampire fix. But otherwise, it's standard formulaic DVD horror, I think intended solely to write off taxes and, just like, this film's not going to do anything. Let's just get rid of it. It's one that they've held on their books for a minute because it despite the fact it was shot in 2009, I think the script is older than that. I think it's much older. Probably came around in like 2000, around the time when like Dracula 2000 was out and 30 Days of Night, came along. It was like kind of like reinvigorated that genre, which is where they're trying to go with it. But like I said, nothing new, absolutely nothing new brought to it. So,
yeah, I think that's all we got to say about that one.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's like it's one of the there's so many that do it better. And that's unfortunate because, I think that the cast there's maybe a little bit of modicum of talent in it, but you don't ever see it. Films like this are not going to progress anyone's career, which is why if you go and look at everybody who was acting in this film, nobody really went on to do anything, anything major. Michelle Morrow was one of the bigger names because she's a TV personality. She's a host. She's a presenter. She was, involved heavily in game and being a host. So, and plus she campaigned for a long time to be Sylvanas in the Warcraft film, which obviously is never going to happen now. But, we didn't get to see much because the director didn't demand anything. The director didn't need to demand anything. The script didn't demand anything from them. Right. Play your role, play your Lucy role, play your Mina role, play your Dracula role, but you don't have any lines and you're not really impressive, there's no character there. You be the hero, you be the junkie boyfriend who's a dick. It's all two-dimensional.
Seen it. Yeah. Well, talking about shitty Dracula movies, I'd like to ask the audience, what do you think is the worst Dracula movie? Because there's a lot of vampire Dracula movies, and so even just take Dracula, the one vampire, and there's at least 100 that you could probably pull up, and I think a pretty good chunk of those are pretty bad.
I think the worst Dracula film, Dracula 3000. Dracula 3000 was pretty fucking bad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yo, Travis Brown. Travis Brown brings up Dracula 3000.
Dracula 3000. Yeah, it's pretty
fucking
terrible.
Awful. Oh, it was so bad.
It's like, do you pick from like old movies, or do you pick from like newer movies? Like Leave Your Gentleman was fucking terrible. Blade Trinity was the only thing that made that was one line in the entire movie.
Okay, so Javer says worst Dracula or worst Dracula film? Worst Dracula horror film. What do you think is the worst Dracula horror film? So, and I think, Sir Cab says Gary Oldman played Dracula. Everyone else could just hang up their collective hats. Good point. Yeah, should be. That's it.
Fair enough.
And he says, was that the one with Jerry Ryan? No, that was Dracula 2000.
That was 2000.
With Gerard Butler, pre-300 Gerard Butler being the suave and sexy Dracula. I actually like some elements of Dracula 2000. Not to mention, come on, you got Jennifer Esposito, you got Jerry Ryan, and you've got Vitamin C as the brides. And I got to see Vitamin C's boobies, which I thought was awesome. And then, of course, everybody's just naturally good looking. And it had a fantastic moment, one of the best. And that's when Omar Epps, because this is like a who's who of fucking 90s leading actors is in this fucking movie. And Omar Epps jumps on him to attack Johnny Lee Miller from Hackers. and he says he's gonna bite him, and then he pulls up the cross, and he's like, sticks his face, and Omar Epstein's like, sorry, sport, I'm an atheist. And then he hits the button on the deal, and the blade comes out and says, God loves you anyway, and he stabs him in the fucking face. That shit was fucking brilliant. Wes Craven is brilliant, okay? Wes Craven's, he did that, and I was like, that was fucking amazing. He's like, God loves you anyway. Stabs him in the fucking eye. It was
got
so
some
brilliant.
very I kick ass for the Lord vibes.
Oh no, it's so good, so good. But yeah, I mean, I there's some elements I dug the kind of twist with the Judas Iscariot deal. Yeah, I dug that. But Dracula 3000, absolutely terrible. Strange Lex 790, good to see you. Says Van Helsing is my vote as the worst Dracula horror film, because that was a pretty bad Dracula, and that one that was pretty bad. Of course, Hugh Jackman, his Wolfman was pretty badass.
Yeah.
That was a pretty badass werewolf, but the Dracula was just fucking goofy as fuck. Oh, I'm Dracula. Oh, I'm so goofy.
Speaking of, I'm excited to see Renfield.
Renfield should be good. Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the Nick Cage Dracula film coming out.
There
Who
it is.
knows?
I mean, what does that mean? What does it mean? Nick Cage is Dracula. Oh shit, that's got to be a sign.
It's literally the Nick Cage Ouroboros is finally complete.
Yep.
Because he started out German expressionist. You know, that's his training. That's where he's at. And he's finally come full circle to play the German expressionist version of a vampire, which is essentially like Nosferatu, but that goofy kind of, the bigness and the, you know, that kind of shit. He's the Nick Cage Ouroboros is complete. That's what I'm saying. He's finally arrived. But yeah, interesting stuff. All right. So, you know what time it is, bud? It is trivia time.
Got a button for it now. That's amazing.
Yes, that's all you. You inspired that. You
Hell
inspired it.
Oh, I love it.
We wanted to take
that made my night. Thank you. Oh, it's great.
We wanted to take the pressure off of you. Just having to do it. So yeah, we got you inspired it. We needed a button. It is trivia time tonight. Fucking A. All right. So tonight's trivia question for that individual, that lucky individual who knows this or gets it right, the first correct answer in the live chat will win a special item from the Week in Horror store from Teespring. Check that link out down below. We have all kinds of cool shit there, from mugs, from drinkware to shirts and hoodies and all kinds of cool stuff. Stickers for every single season, artwork, all kinds of cool things. One of our favorite ones is the pint glass with the season 1 limited edition artwork on it. Is one of the big popular items. But yeah, check out that link. And of course, if you get the correct answer to this trivia question in the live chat, you will win a special item out of the week, a mystery item out of the Week in Horror store. So get those Google fingers ready. Okay, here we go. Years before the Hays Code ever went into effect, the British Board of Film Censors, or the BBFC, established the film classification H for horrific in direct response to what 1931 horror film? So one more time. Years before the Hays Code ever went into effect, the BBFC established the film classification H for horrific in direct response to what 1931 horror film? First correct answer in the live chat, win something from the Week in Horror store. Let's see what we got. I've got the live chat pulled up on my phone. Let's see what we have. Crafty says, I can already say, I don't know. That's okay, Crafty. That is quite all right. We're going to see what we've got. What do we got? Plothole said Gone with the Wind. No, it was not Gone with the Wind.
Pretty close, though. I mean, really not far off.
Josh Lee says 1931 Dracula. No, it was not. Travis Brown has got it.
Nailed it.
Congratulations. Where's he at? There it is. Bam. It was 1931's Frankenstein. Yes, and Angel Rivera was right on his heels. So, but yes, it was Frankenstein. The release of Frankenstein prompted the BBFC, or the British Board of Film Censors, to introduce the H classification, H for horrific, in direct response to the film Frankenstein and Karloff's performance. That was because of the scene with the little girl. It was that scene alone which was inspired them to be like, bam, we need to put this out there. So Congratulations to Travis Brown. He's one of our big, huge winners. And let me see. This is a 1931 Honda. How dare you?
How dare you?
But yeah, it was definitely Frankenstein. Doctor Who Design said Cheech and Chong's like, no. Original Dracula, no. Sir Cadden said Frankenstein. Yep, it was Frankenstein. Well done. And Travis wants to give his prize to Denova. Very
nice.
generous of you.
There you go.
Denova 28. Denova 28 gets the prize from a very generous Travis Brown. Barry, thank you very much, Travis. Awesome. Congratulations, Denova. We are going to print that up and get that shipped to you ASAP. Congratulations, Travis, for getting the right answer. I love doing the trivia. I love giving away stuff. But
that's awesome. Yeah.
Way to go, all. Excellent work. Excellent.
And that will close out another episode of Week in Horror Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, smash those like and subscribe buttons and be sure to hit that bell so you never miss a future episode. Join us next week when we look back at the outdoor survival Infected, the infamous holiday sequel, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Yes!
Doubling down. Yeah.
It's garbage day. I'm so excited.
Looking forward to it. Doubling down on alien sex shenanigans and Species 2. Things that you write down that you make me read, man, I love it. And exploring the Poverty Row horror classic, The Monster Baker. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. Say samurai, I want to say sword. badsamurai.store. He does all of our awesome artwork. You see splattered all over our merch, which you can find over at Teespring. For more from Week in Horror, check out all the bloody links in the description. Follow us on the socials for the Daily Splatter, your daily horror recommendation. Join our Discord for watch parties, which are awesome. You guys have been showing some really good shit in there recently. You've got big announcements in there. That's where you can kind of find all of our horror shenanigans and support the show through our PayPal link and through our Patreon. Join the higher tiers in Patreon for early content access and behind-the-scenes fun with us, the crew on this show. And I hope to be more involved in some of that here coming up now that we're starting to settle down on all this crazy stuff.
Fucking A.
Or even just support the show for as little as $1 a month. Just $1. You just throw $1 at it. You get a little bit of fun. You get to come in and hang out with us. It's a great time.
Get your name on the banner down below that you see. Scrolling by.
Yeah.
That's our Patreon banner.
There. Be awesome.
And a bunch of behind the scenes stuff coming up because we have film productions.
Yeah,
coming up.
There's gonna be some stuff flowing through the Discord and through that back channel stuff that you can get through our Patreon. So what are you waiting for? Join us. And as always, thank you guys so much for being the greatest audience a horror film podcast could have. You guys are literally the best audience I've ever seen anywhere. Thank you guys so much. I'm Alex.
I am JL.
And I hope to God we will see you next week. And as always, stay scared.
You like getting to say the clothesline, don't you?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yes, you do.